Before we dive into the story, imagine a world without wars. And if you enjoy exploring such what-if universes, don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring tales like this one. What if there were no wars in the world? In our history, the world has always been painted with shadows of battles and echoes of destruction. But what if that canvas had been different? What if the brushstrokes of humanity's story were drawn not with fire and blood, but with harmony and creation? This is the story of such a world. The world of unity. The year was 2125, though no one cared much for counting time by centuries anymore. Humanity had grown beyond the need to measure progress by wars or rulers. Instead, years were marked by achievements. The year of the first ocean dome, the year of the Martian gardens, the year of the universal language. There were no borders. People still lived in the places where they were born, carried their traditions, and spoke their native languages. But no flags divided them. Instead, each region was known for its gifts. The rivers of Amazonia, the deserts blooming in Africa, the mountains of Asia, the vast Arctic plains, untouched, preserved, respected. The story of Amira and Theo. Amira, a historian from Cairo, had grown up fascinated by an unusual subject: the wars that never happened. Historians in her world often studied our history, the one where humanity destroyed itself again and again. It was almost unbelievable to her classmates that, in another possible timeline, humans had once chosen to build weapons instead of cures, bombs instead of gardens. One day, Amira traveled to Athens, where she met Theo, a musician whose ancestors had, in our timeline, lived through wars in Europe. But here, his family had centuries of uninterrupted peace. Theo's ancestors had passed down songs, not scars. They sat beneath the olive trees of a solar-lit park, overlooking a city filled not with ruins, but with glass towers that shimmered with clean energy. Amira asked him, "Do you ever wonder what our lives would have been if wars had been real in this world?" Theo strummed his lyre-like instrument, his notes blending with the hum of wind-powered engines in the distance. "I think about it sometimes," he admitted, "but I can't imagine losing my grandfather to a battlefield instead of hearing his stories. I can't imagine songs of sorrow louder than songs of joy. Perhaps it's better we keep those possibilities as lessons of what never should be." A different kind of struggle. Of course, their world wasn't free of hardship. Floods, fires, and storms still came. Illnesses still challenged the human body. But when tragedy struck, humanity responded as one. Instead of armies marching against each other, fleets of ships sailed together to deliver food and medicine. Instead of spy satellites, the skies held networks of solar mirrors, reflecting light to regions that needed warmth. Disagreements still existed. People argued, nations debated, leaders sometimes clashed with words. But arguments ended at negotiation tables, never on battlefields. The greatest heroes were not warriors, but scientists, healers, poets, and bridge builders. Statues rose not for generals, but for those who discovered cures, ended hunger, or connected distant cultures through art. The future beyond Earth. By the time Amira and Theo reached adulthood, humanity had already built thriving colonies on Mars and floating cities above the oceans. Not once had these achievements been slowed by war. Instead, people from every corner of Earth collaborated: engineers from Lagos, architects from Tokyo, artists from Buenos Aires, teachers from Reykjavik. Their dream was no longer survival but expansion, not of conquest but of wonder. Children grew up learning about the stars not as distant points of light, but as destinations. Families watched launches together, not of missiles, but of ships carrying explorers who would one day plant seeds on faraway worlds. The lesson of peace. Amira's greatest project as a historian became writing a book, The Timeline That Could Have Been. In it, she described our reality, the one scarred by centuries of war. Many who read it wept, unable to comprehend how so much beauty and progress had been delayed, stolen, or destroyed in that darker version of humanity. Theo, inspired by her work, wrote a symphony called The Silence of Cannons. It began with harsh, discordant tones, representing what war might have sounded like, but ended with rising, hopeful notes that filled concert halls across the globe. People listened, held hands, and silently promised each other never to let such shadows enter their reality. And so, this world without wars kept moving forward. Not perfect, but united, hopeful, and endlessly creative. A reminder that peace is not just the absence of war. It is the presence of trust, compassion, and shared dreams. Would you choose to live in such a world? If this vision inspires you, subscribe now and let's keep imagining what if worlds together.